This is KGW News at Sunrise.
The quarantine happened not because of COVID cases, but because of the exposure.
This morning, we have some more information on the schools switching to remote learning. 2 districts are looking for more ways to protect students and staff and avoid another mass quarantine. Plus,
nobody's taking the time to understand that we have to come together as a community and stop this now before it gets even worse.
Talking about the gun violence in Portland, because with 3 months to go, we've already seen 900 shootings in the city this year. Coming up this half hour, we're going to hear more from that woman who says she's still trying to find closure almost a year after her brother was shot and killed here in Portland.
and a heads up for drivers this morning. Portland's Broadway Bridge is closing this weekend. It's 100 years old and due for some upgrades. We'll tell you what's going on.
We're going to tell you what's going on right now as far as the skies are concerned.
Yes.
We see dry skies over Portland. A beautiful looking Portland, by the way, at 5:01 on your Friday morning. But Rod, let's talk about the rain that is a-coming.
Yes.
We want to know where. We want to know when. You don't have to give it all to us now, but a little bit.
Say good morning, Astoria, with me. Good morning,
Astoria. Yes,
Here's
good
the
morning.
radar. You folks, the first ones to see some rain. And there you can see it. It's being reported as light rain, 55 degrees at the airport there. It's also light rain up in Chehalis, Olympia, just outside of Longview. Believe it or not, this really should stop on this line, and if anything, bend a little bit to the north, meaning I still have Portland, Salem, and Vancouver staying dry this morning, and in fact staying dry this afternoon, which takes us to the bus stop. Mid-50s out the door this morning, light winds, 68 degrees lunchtime recess, and then we'll see temperatures later today get up into the mid-70s. The first batch of heavy rain still on track for the Rose City about midnight tonight, that complete weekend forecast coming up.
All right, before we get to our top story this half hour, we do want to ask you one question based on Rod's forecast. Are you looking forward to the rain? That's the question, and that's the number where you can text us. You can also share any favorite rainy day activities because we have a few rainy days on the way. That text line number again, 503-226-5088.
Also this morning, we are following up on 2 Portland area schools that announced large-scale quarantines this week. It's causing more than 3,000 students to stay home from class. Christine Pitawanich has the details.
The 2 schools in quarantine are an elementary school in the Gladstone School District and one of the largest high schools in Oregon in the Reynolds School District.
What's happening actually at Reynolds High School is that we had a few COVID cases with students. While we didn't have that many, the issue was the amount of students that we had to quarantine were a lot.
That's Steve Padilla with the Reynolds School District. He says out of precaution and also because it would be too difficult for teachers to split up teaching in person and online, the decision was made to quarantine all of the roughly 2,600 students attending Reynolds High. Next week, they'll start distance learning.
And the reason why we have no school today or tomorrow is to give the teachers time to prep for the distance learning. And so we're giving them a couple days. The students all have their devices.
Meantime, 20 miles away in the Gladstone School District, one staff member who was vaccinated and masked tested positive. They had contact with many students, resulting in the quarantine of an entire school.
Due to a widespread COVID-19 exposure at John Letton Elementary, all of our students in grades 1 through 5 have been put on quarantine at home. The quarantine happened not because of COVID cases, but because of the exposure. The staff member became aware of symptoms during the middle of the school day.
How many kids are we talking about?
I believe it's 620.
Gladstone School's spokesperson Leslie Robinette says Thursday and Friday will be spent distributing laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots. Teachers will prepare. Then distance learning starts next week. Students at both schools will come back to school in person after 10 days on the 27th.
It's an operational shutdown. We're changing up a few procedures so that way, if it does happen in the future, we're better prepared and less students have to quarantine.
Both districts are now looking at additional ways to protect students and staff. The Reynolds School District will be asking parents to voluntarily submit their students' vaccination status and plans to better track seating in classrooms and on the bus. In the Gladstone School District, there are plans to upgrade air filtration systems that'll provide hospital-grade air quality. Christine Petawanich, KGW News.
All right, let's talk about Portland schools for a moment, because there are a couple of hundred students in the Portland Public School District that are quarantined right now. And some parents are saying that the most frustrating part of this is the district's lack of a plan for distance learning. They also want to know what would trigger an entire school to switch to distance learning, like we saw with Reynolds High School this week. So we asked the district, and the district told us it's following guidance from their health partners, and those partners include Multnomah County. So at that point, we reached out to the county, and county health officials told us there's really no simple metric for when to shut an entire school down.
It's inevitable. Kids are going to miss school. There's no vaccinations for the elementary level. I'll be shocked if they're still there by Halloween.
We just heard from a parent right there, and here's another issue that some parents are frustrated about: the lack of assigned seating on buses. Portland Public Schools says they're in the process of creating seating charts, but they weren't done in time to prevent a large quarantine at Dunaway Elementary. Dunaway's PTA president says a student riding the bus tested positive, and with no way to contact trace, 40 other students who ride that bus were forced to stay home and quarantine.
Also, some changes for college kids at the University of Oregon. We talked to one senior who got an email from his professor saying when the fall term starts, his in-person class will be online.
I think as an employee of a university, you shouldn't have to be forced to put your neck on the line or your safety on the line just for the comfortability of your students. I feel like your safety should also be considered as an employee, as well as the safety of other students.
Overall, U of O says only 5% of classes will be online. The rest will look like they did pre-pandemic. When the students registered, the online classes were clearly marked. However, officials said every term there may be a small number of situations where they have to change plans.
Students at the University of Oregon, pardon me, that's another story that we'll get to later, but right now we want to get to this. A homeless man was shot and killed in southeast Portland a year ago, and now his family is talking to us about it. Harold Major was killed on November 7th of last year on the corner of Southeast 33rd and Powell. That's where he was living at the time in a tent. Detectives believe Harold was the victim of a drive-by shooting and that he had no connection at all to the person or the people in the car. Crime Stoppers is now offering a $25,000 reward for information about his death. His sister says there's really not much that will bring her peace at this point, but she still wants to know who killed her brother.
From the beginning, I told myself that if they ever did find who did it, I would forgive him. And the reason why is because Harold would have forgave him.
Last night, Crystal set up a small memorial to honor her brother on what would have been his 32nd birthday. If you have any information that would help Crime Stoppers, you're asked to give them a call.
We have an update this morning on a brush fire that broke out last night near Multnomah Falls. We've confirmed crews contained it late last night. Downed power lines in the area made the fire difficult to fight, so crews had to close one eastbound lane of I-84 to make room to work. The sheriff's office says there was no immediate threat to the public. Don't know yet how that fire started, but Rod, we're following up the story about the fire with a forecast that includes rain. We need it, and it's coming later today.
Yeah, the story's a reminder the rain is good, right? And absolutely necessary when you haven't had much of anything. In fact, we've had less than 1/10 of an inch of rain total since we had some decent rain in the mid part of June. That's how dry we've been. So here we go. Radar right now. My big story this morning is if you get up and you just see this on our KGW app or you see a radar online, it looks like it's coming to Portland. There's reason to believe this will hold off to our west and hold off to our north. And the Portland will, in fact, and Salem and Vancouver stay dry this morning and this afternoon. Reason to believe that. See the little line right here? When you see a curved line, that's the radar beam. hitting an altitude at a uniform level with the beam, and it doesn't pick up any moisture until that altitude. That typically happens when it's so high up that none of that's reaching the ground. So that's one signature that tells you that that rain's not coming to town quite yet like it looks like perhaps it is. All right, Futurecast, 3 p.m. this afternoon. It's raining in Astoria right now, and then there's a building chance of showers along the coast during the day. Here we are, 9 p.m. Once we get into this evening, there's an increasing chance of showers, but we could stay dry through about 9 p.m. here in Portland and Salem. The main rain band's still on track for about midnight. This shows it at 11:30, the steady rain overnight. And then during tomorrow, it's scattered stuff, but numerous heavy pockets of rain coming and going. And there is a thunderstorm threat tomorrow afternoon into the evening as well. Rain totals, this shows pretty much the same amounts of the coast. Interesting for the weekend as we'll get in the valley. And that's generally on average 1.5 inches. To maybe some areas have a chance to pick up 2 inches. We're at 60 degrees right now in the Rose City, 49 out in the Dow. 76 will be the high. Generally just a dry, cloudy day. The rain comes in tonight. 60s this weekend. Back to dry weather on Monday and Tuesday. You ready for my rain dance? Can I do it?
I'm not ready for it.
Woo, it's going to rain, baby. Rain, baby. Okay, that was
No,
it.
you know what? Actually, now that I see it, I'd like to see more. Can you give me more, Rob? Brenda's shaking her head. We're moving on. We do have a traffic update to get you to this morning. And this is actually a pretty big one, right in the heart of downtown Portland. The Broadway Bridge will be closed from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday. So the next 3 days after today. Multnomah County is making repairs to the drawbridge's lift system. The county says the project is expected to wrap up still by the end of September, but there's also the chance that this weekend's rain that Rod just danced about will push that projection back a bit.
Hey, grab your stein. Oktoberfest is underway. It's one of the largest festivals in the world. Coming up this morning, see how they celebrate in Mount Angel. Also coming up, we have talked a lot about COVID variants, the latest being Mu. But are these mutations more dangerous? Well, not always. Our Verify team breaks it down next.